All right, today marks the 30th consecutive business day that we are publishing a new episode. I have some lessons I've learned from uploading every single day for 30 days that I want to share with you, and also give you some ideas as to how we're going to continue this in a long-term fashion. Let's dive into it. All right, so like I said, today marks the 30th consecutive day that we are publishing, whether it be a snack or an interview. And first of all, I just want to say thank you. There is a core audience out there that continues to listen to these every single day. And like, you guys don't know how much I appreciate that, especially those of you that I hear from, whether you text me or email me or send me a note on Twitter. I really appreciate that. I love it when you give me feedback on things that, we can improve, things that you'd like to see or that would be more helpful for you. And so I say all that to say, if you are listening regularly and you have not reached out in some way, I would love to hear from you. Would love to know what's helpful, what could be more helpful, what you like, what you don't like, all of it. That's really, really, we just appreciate that you take the time to include us as part of your day. But we've learned a lot. Posting every day for 30 days is definitely more difficult in some ways than I thought, especially early on. But now we've developed some calluses, and there's some efficiency there that has made it easier in some ways as well. So I want to share those ideas with you. The first thing I'd say is that creating a volume like we have been, which for clarity, we do these every day, but we also have a regular. These are kind of like our pillar content, like we've talked about before. These get turned into a bunch of different assets for social and video that are sent out across our different LinkedIn, Twitter platforms throughout the course of the week. And then we have a Friday email that goes out that, is pulled from the same thoughts and ideas that come out of this, and as well as a bunch of other stuff. Okay. So blog posts that are, each of these gets turned into a blog post. Some of them get turned into transcripts. So there's just a volume of content that's coming from this, and doing it at that volume forces you to find efficiencies. It forces you to find a process that works between you and your team. So for us, that took probably 2 or 3 weeks to say, okay, when do we need things? Adam, when do you need your recordings done in order that, Johnny and Carlton can begin editing, and so that we can get that turned around quickly enough so Tristan can create some assets for it. And, I can go back in there and create even more assets on top of it. So finding a process that works, making sure everyone has the tools they need, making sure all of our tools talk. I do a lot of my scripting and writing in Notion. So making sure that information makes it into our internal software. All of that takes some time, but we have done it now, and we have a really strong system that I think will serve us moving forward. So that would be my first piece of advice. Really stress test this system, even if you're not publishing every day. Find a way to stress test the system so that you can replicate that process over time. The second thing I would say is that creating daily specifically really allows you to see what's resonating, right? You're able to see which pieces of content are giving you little spikes in attention, which ones are being almost completely ignored, which ones are better for engagement versus just pure views, what is causing people to retweet or to share or, to comment or like versus a different one that maybe is going to get, a bunch of email. I'll get a bunch of emails about, but on the platforms, things have, stay pretty quiet. If I wasn't doing it at the volume that I'm doing at, I wouldn't be able to notice those things on the day to day. And even in just like consumption, there's certain episodes I know, okay, this one is going to do well, just because of the content and the way that our audience responds versus some other ones that, I might not think do well and they end up doing well. Or I'm like, we need to talk about this because it's important and I want to be able to point back and say we've covered it, but it's not going to do a ton in terms of audience reach initially. And that's helpful to know. The third thing I would say is that the creating daily has sort of, I mentioned this at the beginning, but it's given us some calluses, and it's given me some calluses specifically as in terms of making creation a habit that I now rely on and expect on a daily basis. So where at the beginning I would say that it felt like there was a lot of weight to try to create every single day, and like, oh, am I going to get everything scripted? Am I going to get everything recorded? Is it going to be edited the way I want it to be? All those sorts of things. And it was a difficult process to go through, where now it's more like if I go a day and I haven't created, it feels like I'm missing something. It feels like there's a part of my day, a part of my process that I'm missing out on. And I think that's really important, especially at the stage that we're in, where, we're still relatively small. We're still relatively at the beginning stages, and we plan to do this for a long time. I plan to be making this type of content for another year and a half or 2 years at the volume that we're doing it right now. And so being able to build some of those calluses even in the first month or so is really, really important. And I'm thankful that we've been able to do that. So that's just some early lessons, some early insights into how it's going and what we've learned so far. I'm sure we'll run into some more challenges as time goes on, but really the big takeaway is I'm really thankful for you. Thankful that you take the time to listen. And like I said before, if you have any feedback, if you have anything that you want to share or you want us to note, we'd love to hear that as we continue to make this thing grow. All right. We appreciate you. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you tomorrow.